So, hello John and welcome. Please could you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your roles in the community?
Well, my name's Jon Cousins and I'm a senior community organiser, and I'm also a town councillor, and I am an elected member of Glastonbury Town Council, and in the year 2016 and 17 I also had the great honour of being the mayor of Glastonbury, and so I've combined community organising, town counselling and mayorality all together, I think that's basically what we're going to talk about, isn't it? See, what the listener at home, hello listener, won't know is that Dave is also a town councillor too. Is that right?
I am. I'm a town councillor for Portland Town Council, and I also am a community organiser. Went through the Community Organiser programme in cohort 3. And yes, today we're going to talk about community organising and its links to town councils and parish councils, but also around the Precept and the General Power of Competencies for councils. So these are some of the things we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, and I think that those three things, it's interesting, those three things are almost like, in my mind, the pillars of what could be a really successful marriage between community organising and local councils. Community organisers, of course, are people who go out into community and listen to find out what the issues are, to find out what people love about their place, where they come from, what their concerns might be, and then to work with people and facilitate community-based solutions to those problems. And in many ways, in an ideal world, that's exactly what we as town councillors should be doing. We should be listening to our residents, listening to the communities who elected us, listening to the whole community about their issues, their loves, their concerns, types of things that we need to find solutions for, and then to be able to facilitate those solutions, hopefully working with the council and with the community.
But John, I know from working in councils, and you will as well, that many councillors will feel that they already do this. They're already listening to their community. Why is it different with community organising? What's different to what they're already doing within their councils?
Well, I think the big difference is that, as far as I can see from my experience, there is certainly a lot of activity of door knocking, which is something that we as community organisers and councillors do the same. A flurry of activity of door knocking in the run-up to an election. When they knock on the door and they say, "Hello, Mrs. Jones, I'm from the town council. I hope you will elect me. And what are the things that you're worried about? You know, what do you think about this, that, and the other?" But a community organiser's approach is no agenda. They don't want to get elected. That's for the start. They're purely interested in finding out what it is that the community is concerned about, and then facilitating a community response. So I think the difference, if I'm making sense, the difference is a town council is trying to find out from a community, or councillors trying to find out from a community about the issues that then the council will resolve. Community organisers trying to find out the issues that then the community comes together to resolve. And there's a big difference between a few elected people coming up with an idea that they hope reflects the community's opinion, and a group of people coming up with an idea that really does reflect the community's opinion. And in a good town council, I would hope that the councillors would want to actually do the latter. They'd want to be able to come up with a solution that they know has come from the community, that they know is the direct result of the community's involvement, that would have the support then of the community. I mean, if you think about it, how many times have you on your council in Portland, and I know this has happened in Glastonbury where I am, where the councillors do something, then tell the community about it, and then there's an uproar and there's a load of people come into the town council saying, "Why didn't you tell us about this?" Or, "You know, this is the first we've heard about it." We've got a current situation in the town in Glastonbury where a town councillor has worked with the district council to move the Tor Fair, an annual fair, into the town, into the centre of town, without consulting with anybody who lives in the area where the fair's going in. Nobody wants it. And so their form of consultation, as it were, was post-decision rather than pre-decision. And I think that happens a lot with councils as well.
I've certainly come across many councillors who have said, well, I put my manifesto out there at the time of election. People have elected me on that manifesto, and that gives me the power now to act for the community.
Yeah.
So is that something you've come across as
Yeah,
well?
that happens a lot, doesn't it? Or that people, you know, you get councillors going, people know who I am, they know what I think, that's why they elected me,
Yes.
and that's why I can do X, Y, Z, which is all very well, I suppose. And I think that that is a way that a lot of councillors work, but it's not actually involving people or involving the community. I was reading, in preparation for this video, I was reading the Good Councillor Guide, which is produced by the National Association of Local Councils. In the Good Councillor Guide, it says that a good councillor will consult with the community. A good councillor will find out what the community wants, and not just the people who elect them, but the whole community. And I think that that's where community organising as a tool, the methods of community organising, the active listening, the kind of questions, the way that we construct those questions, and the way that we're not trying to provide a solution, we're trying to encourage people to come up with their own solutions around things. That could be an extremely useful thing for councillors to take on.
So at the beginning of the video we mentioned the General Power of Competency. So how do you feel that community organising can help to influence that? First of all, explain what is the General Power of Competency?
Well, the Localism Act came in 2011. So, to my mind, a great piece of legislation. A piece of legislation that's designed to devolve power to the first tier of government, which is the parish and town councils. So Localism Act has within it the General Power of Competency for councils, which says that councils are basically unrestricted in what they can do. Councils can do anything that an individual might do, basically. I think that's the line in the legislation. Dave might have it written down here to tell us exactly what it says.
Yeah, so it's that a council, exactly as you said, yeah, can do anything that an individual can do within the restraints of a law.
Within the restraints of the law, of course, councils would never do anything unlawful. But of course, so because we've got this power now as councils, it means that if the community decided that they wanted something, if there was an issue and the resolution was coming out of the community, and that would involve something that a council wouldn't normally do. For instance, if there wasn't enough social housing, that's fairly topical at the moment, wasn't enough social housing, then a town council or a parish council can actually build some social housing. That's possible. There's nothing in legislation that would stop them doing that. In Glastonbury, we had the situation where we didn't have enough police on the beat. We found ourselves without PCSO. We found ourselves with increasing levels of antisocial behaviour, open drug dealing on the streets, and of course, as a town councillor and as the mayor at the time, people would be getting in touch with me, stopping me in the street, saying, "What are we going to do about this?" No, they weren't saying that. They were saying, "What are you going to do about this?" And so I decided to get the police in. I talked to the area commander, the chief constable, and then I actually got to talk to the police and crime commissioner. And I took all of that information that I'd gathered from people, listening to them in the street, talking with them. I'd also done some social media sort of engagement and asking people to put forward their questions. I took all of that information to the police and crime commissioner, who came, and you know, it was brilliant. She came to talk with me. That was the power of being the mayor, was I could summon her. And we talked about all those issues. All of the issues that our community had were put on the table. They became the agenda for the police and crime commissioner, for her to work out some solutions for, solutions based on the issues raised by the community. And we had an amazing meeting, and 5 solutions came forward. And one of them was that the town council itself could pay for its own police and community support officer, who would then be ring-fenced for the town and would be on beat.
Yep.
So then the next question around that was, well, is that the job of a town council to provide police staff? Well, if you think about it, it's really the job of the Home Secretary for Police and Fire. At the time it was Brandon Lewis. It was his job to make sure that we in Glastonbury had enough police. had enough PCSOs, had enough support within the constabulary to keep ourselves free of crime and antisocial behaviour, drug dealing, all that. But Brandon Lewis, in his wisdom, had decided to cut the police budget. So because there was less budget, and in the words of the Police and Crime Commissioner, the Avon and Somerset Constabulary was dampened, which means they had, listen to this, 350 less officers than any other constabulary. Because of Brandon Lewis's decision in Whitehall, that was having a direct impact on our community. There were no police that could be assigned to us like that.
Yeah.
So, although it was Brandon Lewis's job, he wasn't fulfilling it. So who should fulfill that? Well, as a community organiser, I would say that if the community identifies a problem and the community can come up with some solutions and have their say on solutions, then why can't we as a community also come together to resource and facilitate that
Yeah.
solution? And that's what I went back to the community and said, what do you think about this? Through the town clerk, the cost of a PCSO, we found out, would actually be the same as £1 on the council tax. This is the Band D council tax. £1 a month on the council tax over a year. 12 quid. For £12, we get our own PCSO assigned to Glastonbury who can walk those streets where the drug stealing is going on, where the antisocial behaviour is happening. They can police that area. We went to the community through social media, through the press. We had amazing support from our local paper who ran a whole page on the issue with all the solutions. We had a consultation period out in the streets listening to people. And of course, when you frame it in this way, would you pay £1 a month for a safer street? The community said yes, overwhelmingly said yes. And so we as a town council took the lead from the community and we worked with the police, and now we have in place funding for our own PCSO who's being recruited at this very time. And that is a type of thing that's possible if you listen to the community, if you get out there and use those tools and think outside the box. That's why the General Power of Competence is important in this, because we can really do as a council what the community want us to do. And I think there's something interesting in that as well, because at least with £12 of the council tax, people know where that's going.
Yeah.
You know, people pay a council tax, whatever it is. You know, I'm paying 100 and something a month on the council tax on my house. I know at least where £1 of that's going. That's going to support our community.
So you'd gone out and you'd consulted with the community. Had all the councillors bought into this? Was there
No.
any resistance from
Yeah.
other councillors?
Yeah, there was resistance from councillors because it's not the normal way of doing things. Because some of the councillors, I know best because people elected me, you know,
Yeah.
so they're not interested in hearing what the community want to say. Other councillors said, well, it's not the job of a town council to do this. And I empathise with that. I mean, you know, in an ideal world, of course, Brandon Lewis would provide an adequate amount of resource for the police constabulary, but they haven't done it. So that's another story. So yes, it's not really our job, but as no one else is doing it, why shouldn't we do it?
Yeah.
And then there were other people who...
So also, sorry John to interrupt, but we know as councillors, probably the most contentious meeting of the year is when you set the precept, the part of the council tax that goes directly to the parish council. So I know that on Portland, whenever we set the precept, lots of the community come to listen and to quite often contest any rises that happen. So did people come to this meeting and contest the rise, or were they wholly behind this?
I had one email saying, why are you doing this? I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah.
Out of 8,000 people in Glastonbury, because and it was generally accepted. The reason why there weren't the complaints is because for a year we'd been working on community, you know, getting out there in the community, talking about the issue, listening to what people wanted, coming up with a solution, going back to the community and saying, what do you think? So they've been consulted and they've been engaged and they've been taking part and being heard all the way through the process.
So they had ownership of it as well.
well, as much as they can within the system we've got. I mean, there's another issue there. I mean, there were councillors who opposed it.
Okay.
Right? There are councillors who weren't comfortable with it. Councillors who felt outside of their comfort zone. Councillors who felt that it wasn't our job. There were some councillors who really just weren't interested.
Was it across party lines, or was it across?
No, it was really across. I think it was across age lines. Or not age, but longevity of councillor. I think if you looked at the councillors who'd been on the council longest, who were used to doing things this way,
yeah,
they were the ones who found the new ideas, more challenging. I think that's probably the right way to say it. So to rewind just quickly to say that if I had been able to train the councillors in community organising, and if we'd all gone out, all 16 of us have gone out into the community and discussed this, then we might even have had even more imaginative, creative solutions to the problem.
So this was my next question. So I was going to ask, what processes could be introduced to help councillors, new and old, to gain an understanding of community organising?
Well, I mean, to my mind, in an ideal world, the great tool that community organisers have is the good old-fashioned door knocking, without any agenda, and asking the type of questions where you're exploring with the person, the type of thing that makes them feel good about where they live, the type of things that make them feel bad or are an issue for them, and then talking with them and really listening to what they're saying about what they'd like to happen. So these are sort of the active listening sort of tools that we use as community organisers.
So you're talking about training councillors?
Training councillors in active listening, but also training councillors in those sort of consultation techniques about, using where it's appropriate to use what sorts of questions and all that sort of stuff. So like open questions, closed questions, that all of that kind of stuff around true engagement in listening, and also training them around forgetting their own agendas.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing for people who know best, as councillors invariably do, is training them around removing their own, or being able to suspend their own agendas and really listen to because you see what could tend to happen is leading questions.
Just coming to find you, I was literally just about to exit my seat.